In the Grimm version of Rapunzel, the story begins long before the tower. A husband and wife live beside a garden belonging to a mysterious and powerful woman. When the wife becomes pregnant, she develops an overwhelming craving for plants growing there. Rampion. The husband sneaks into the garden to steal some, but he's caught. The woman who owns the garden gives him a choice. He may take the plants, but when his child is born, the child will belong to her. Desperate, he agrees. And when the baby arrives, the woman returns to claim what she was promised. She names the girl Rapunzel. Rapunzel grows under the woman's control, not as a daughter, but as something closer to a possession. As Rapunzel becomes older and more beautiful, the woman grows fearful of the outside world, fearful of losing control. So she does something extreme. She locks Rapunzel in a tower deep in the forest. No doors, no stairs, no escape. The only way in or out is Rapunzel's long hair, lowered from a window when called. The tower becomes a prison. Stories like Rapunzel reflect real fears of the time. Children taken into other households were not uncommon in early Europe. Some were apprentices, some were servants. Others were effectively wards with little freedom, dependent entirely on the person who controlled them. And isolation, especially for young women, was often justified as protection. But protection can easily become control. The line between guardian and captor can disappear. Rapunzel preserves that tension. Years pass, and one day, a prince hears Rapunzel singing from the tower. Hidden in the forest, he watches as the woman calls up to her, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." The prince returns the next day and imitates the call. Rapunzel lowers her hair, and for the first time in her life, someone from the outside world enters the tower. Their meetings continue in secret. In the Grimm story, the relationship becomes intimate, and eventually, Rapunzel reveals something that gives it away. She innocently tells the woman who raised her, "You're much heavier to pull up than the prince." The truth is exposed instantly. The woman's response is swift and brutal. She cuts off Rapunzel's hair. Then she abandons her in a remote wilderness, pregnant, alone, exiled. When the prince returns, expecting to see Rapunzel, the woman lets down the cut hair instead. He climbs the tower and finds himself face to face with the person who imprisoned her. In shock and despair, he falls from the tower. The fall leaves him blind. The prince wanders for years, blind, alone, just searching. Eventually, he hears a voice he recognizes, Rapunzel. Now living in exile, she's raising their children. When they reunite, her tears fall into his eyes, and in the story's symbolic ending, his sight returns. Not because justice was served, but because survival continued. Rapunzel was never meant to be a simple love story. It carried warnings about control disguised as protection, isolation used as power, and the dangers of absolute authority over another life. In many households throughout history, young women lived under strict supervision. Some protections were real, others were prisons. Rapunzel sits at the intersection of those two realities. Like the other tales in this series, the Pied Piper, the Robber Bridegroom, the Juniper Tree, Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Cinderella, Bluebeard, and the Goose Girl, Rapunzel survived because the fears behind it was recognizable. Not mythical, recognizable. Fairy tales often preserve the truth that history didn't record in courtrooms. Stories of power, control, and survival. If you want more historically grounded crimes hidden inside fairy tales and folklore, subscribe to A Veil of Crime. This is a part of the Grimm Fairy Tale Crime series, where the stories were never meant to comfort, they were meant to warn. If you'd like to support the channel and help keep these stories researched and told, you can support A Veil of Crime on Buy Me a Coffee. The link is on the channel. Every bit helps keep these forgotten stories alive. Rapunzel was never just about a tower. It was about what happens when someone controls your world so completely that escape becomes a miracle. Thank you for watching A Veil of Crime.